Thank you for another. As I rise and I pray.
Diaspora Check-In, brought to you by Western Union. Receive money directly into your bank account today.
So from learning at Willowdene Prep in St. Catherine to teaching at Spelman College in Atlanta, author and assistant professor of English, Dr. Wandika Gale, joins us for today's Diaspora Check-In. Good morning. Welcome to Smile Jamaica, Dr. Gale.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And this is not the first time you're on Smile, is it?
No, I was there in 2012.
Why? Why back then?
I came to do an art show, and I also had some poems in a chapbook, and I believe it was Simon Crosskill who interviewed me.
Oh, I'm sorry for that. But you're so much more. I mean, you're an author, you're a teacher, and you actually worked with us. And I say with us because you were at the Gleaner, weren't you?
Yes, I worked at the Gleaner in 2003 up to about 2009, but first as a staff reporter, then I did freelance work for them.
Yeah. Bring me up to date. Tell me when you left, why you left, and what you're doing right now. Before we talk about a book, because I know you also wrote a book that I have here, but tell me about that.
I left at the end of 2009 because I wanted to continue my studies. I knew that I wanted to do more work in writing and English, so I went to Andrews University in Michigan. And the interesting thing is that after doing the master's, then from the north, went all the way back down to the south to Louisiana, and that's where I did my doctorate in English with a focus on creative writing fiction. And then after spending 6 years in Louisiana doing that, writing the stories, which is where a lot of the work was done, I then ended up in Utah. And that's where I taught fiction for a year. I went to Southern Utah University, in a small town, Cedar City. And that was 1 year, and then just found myself back down in the South in Atlanta, now at Spelman College, teaching creative writing courses and some journalism courses at Spelman.
Yeah, you're a bold traveler, are you? You've been all over the States. Huh?
I never anticipated that this is how it would go, but you take that first step and you see where it takes you. So,
what has it been like for you, especially in the last year, well, a couple of years, because the pandemic started back in March? What has things been like for you?
It's been very interesting because I only spent one full semester on the campus in fall 2019. And then in spring 2020 is when, as we know, the world shut down. And so we went away for spring break and we just didn't go back to campus. And I had to, we had to shuffle and do courses online. You have to make it just as dynamic. So I had to do like video lessons and, make sure that it was still something that students could get the information in a personal way. And that was how I figured out about Zoom. I mean, I had used Zoom once before, but then became an expert on Zoom because of the pandemic. But it was something I also had to think about, how people feel. You have to check in with them because everybody's going through the same thing, and we couldn't do business as usual. So now that we are back on campus, it's a lot more, they're vigilant about testing and about, making sure that people are vaccinated. And if they're not, and if they have an objection, then they do exemptions and things like that. So it's been a wild ride, and I'm pretty sure that we feel sort of a solidarity because everybody is going through it. Yeah.
So you have face-to-face now?
We have face-to-face now. All of the colleges, especially in the AUC, which is the Atlanta University Center.
Fantastic. In your acknowledgements with the book, you said the stories were drawn from memory. I understand that. Imagination, I understand that. And longing, even though I know what the word means, tell me why you said that.
Well, you always feel homesick. I personally realized that I would be writing about this because that was my experience, where even though these are fictitious stories, I try to infuse the characters with, these feelings of longing and home and what it means to conceive of yourself when you're outside of the country, when you're in the country and there's something you're longing for. And so my focus was primarily Black Jamaican women, but of course, thinking about them as immigrants and also how they move in the world, and definitely trying to capture that feeling of what it's like to just be displaced from your home, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. So
Yeah. Motherland and Other Stories, the name of the book. You teach or you taught advanced fiction courses. This book is fiction, right?
yes.
Where did these stories come from, ma'am?
A lot of different places. It's interesting because sometimes people assume that these all happen to me or people I know, but there are bits and pieces. As you mentioned, my being a reporter, one of the stories came from my having gone to court and observed some court cases. So that's where Courtroom 5 came there.
It is, I started to jump in, but it's interesting. That was one of the stories I was going to ask you about with Verona. I was going to ask you if you were Verona, but I guess you weren't Verona.
No, I was the reporter in the sense that initially when I drafted the story, it was from the perspective of a reporter, but then I realized the story was look more dynamic if we think about, one individual in the dock, what was her journey, what was her experience like, so.
I also picked out Blackout with Pabu. That one was also interesting. So your mind, really a lot of imagination there. But even though it's fiction, did anything at all happen like what you wrote about?
Well, if you think about the Blackout, there was an incident where my father had, accidentally cut down a tree and it hit out the transmission. And so there were people complaining about it. And I did think about it at the time. I said, this would make a great story, even though obviously you're concerned, but I thought this would make a great story. What if this were to happen and there was a cantankerous woman who would, say things about what it would do to her life and then create this whole story about her background. So definitely some stories.
I think I said at the start that you're also an artist. Those paintings are yours, the ones behind you.
Yes. And the painting on the cover of the book is one of mine called Mandeville House. So yes, I did some of these paintings I've done from 2005. I've been doing art as well.
Fantastic. I was trying to find the word and Sim found it for me this morning. I was trying to say you're so accomplished, and you are. As we come to the end of the interview, anyone you want to say hi to in Jamaica before we go?
I guess I'd say hi to my past students. One came on earlier to say hello to me, and so I'm very excited that they're out in the world and they're doing great things. Of course, my parents watching, my family watching, my, colleagues from the Gleaner, from NCU where I worked. So, hi to everybody.
Was it Karine who reached out to you this morning? You taught Karine?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Missy never do such a wonderful job with Karine, I need to tell you. And you also taught Jody too, did you?
Yeah, I believe so. And then Bashan was once in my class.
Well, all right. Vashan, I can't, but the other two, Miss, you need to come back and give them some more work. Great to see you. Great to see you. Congrats on what you've accomplished, and I suspect, because I also read that you're working on another book. My name is Sweet Thing. So when that comes out, maybe we'll have another chat. Stay safe. God bless you. Look after yourself. Author and assistant professor of English at Spelman College in Atlanta, Dr. Wandika Gale. That's it for this week's Diaspora Check-In.
Diaspora Check-In, brought to you by Western Union. Receive money directly into your bank account today.